I am concerned with what's happening in our country today. We're being manipulated, and we're the target of fear based campaigns to encourage us to seek a strong dependency on patriarchy in any and all forms in favor of protection from the evildoers. You mentioned that our liberties are being stripped from the youth, when in all actuality, the banning of certain materials from schools actually promotes a healthy environment for focused learning. Schools don't have the Ten Commandments for the same reason they don't have Qurans, to limit conflict in the schoolyards. And as an agnostic who keeps his mind open to the possibility of evolution and creationism, I fully reject the notion that schools are brainwashing students into atheism. On the contrary, American students are embellished with a very pro-Western version of their history, with mentions very seldom of the atrocities the West has committed against the rest of the world. Students are encouraged by groupthink to sing the words, "One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all." Not under Allah or Elohim, Muhammad or Zeus, but God, which is most frequently translated as Abrahamic God. See, I'm an agnostic and actually lean toward the existence of some sort of unknowable essence which embedded within the fiber of all energy a code of order to allow for the type of environment we find ourselves in today. One that contemporary popular scientific thought alone might qualify as being impossibly unlikely. The scientific method being unable to fully clarify all of human curiosity leads those seeking answers to various personal inquiry investments. Some, like Charles Darwin, chose to push the envelope of science to open up a gateway of new ideas, even though they were very unpopular and condemned during the public exposure, during their preliminary public exposure, that is. Jesus too pushed boundaries of what was considered acceptable. He sought only truth, and to share that truth with as many people as would give their ear to he. You say that atheistic evolutionary theory means that everything came from nothing, but the origin of species doesn't attempt to clarify where everything, all life came from, just how it evolved. I personally believe there is room for both a creator that sparked the momentum that led to the birth of the universe, this galaxy, this planet, the single-celled organism, and the evolution of various species to become as we recognize them today. Perhaps this doesn't coincide with your religious beliefs, but I would encourage you to seek the flexibility to incorporate multiple opinions into your worldview. With a little open-mindedness, evolution may change from feeling like growing pains to a more all-encompassing worldview. For you, or not. Anyhow, evolution and creation can coexist, God being the spark that pushed the momentum that started everything. This is why I write to you, Mr. Cameron, Mr. Comfort. I believe that the supposed truth and messages you are spreading are laden with bias. The association of Charles Darwin and Adolf Hitler is purposefully antagonistic and misleading. Generating this sort of immature controversy to perpetuate your agenda is, by this account anyways, wrong. You accuse agnostics and atheists of being brainwashed by the media, by Satan, by sinful men, but the only true brainwashing that is possible is when the indoctrination of the individual is so severe that they are not encouraged to seek their own answers, which is exactly what you are doing when you assume that the view opposed to natural selection is the correct one. The only objective standard you have to make such a claim is the bias you hold for the book you promote, in which the beginning of both the book and the universe is somewhat challenged by Darwin, so you attack, and how very unchristlike. I don't know if evolution is true, nor do I know if Christ really walked the earth. There is insufficient evidence of either to have me assume with such great assertiveness to call anybody incorrect for believing one way or the other. What I have learned from the Bible is that Christ's only remote reference to the Old Testament was when he stated that he did not come to alter the law of the land. And this is interpreted by most as an endorsement of the Old Testament, and that Moses and Christ are the only two main delivery men of God's message to his children. I'd say that's quite a leap, and in order to defend your Old Testament, or the Old Testament, you have to be faced with the really terrifying messages within it, such as Exodus 35:2, which states that for 6 days work is to be done, but the seventh day shall be your holy day, a Sabbath of rest to the Lord. Whoever does any work on it must be put to death. There's very little wiggle room in that. There are plenty of inconsistencies with the way contemporary Christianity operates in the truths it chooses to emphasize and the truths it chooses to omit from day-to-day practice. In the newly added introduction to The Origin of Species, Ray Comfort conveniently spends a little over a page and a half suggesting that Hitler was motivated by Charles Darwin's book The Origin of Species, and then mentions in one line that Hitler also manipulated Christianity to serve its evil purposes, or his evil purposes. So the video you made to promote the Origin of Species handout is completely hypocritical because you would never purportedly associate Hitler in the same light of Christianity as you have with Darwin. Presenting the Origin of Species with a bias against its findings on its anniversary, it just doesn't encourage people to seek the truth for themselves. It equips them with your bias about the material you're distributing under the guise of open and sincere debate, but in all actuality, you're delivering dressed up attacks on Darwin, the man, just as much as the theory, and in a rational debate, the theory should be isolated from the man. They should be separate from the way the man chose to live his life. Darwin doesn't politicize Christianity, but you are politicizing him. Which brings me to my counter suggestion. Since you seem to be so concerned with balancing the debate of creationism and evolution, I offer to you a challenge and a counter. First, the challenge. The challenge is to back up creationism with empirical evidence of God. After all, we are talking about the scientific realm of this debate. We're not talking about opinions, we're not talking about morality, we're talking about science. So if you can back up creationism with empirical evidence, I would love to see it. I would become a devout Christian if you could do that. If you can do this, you would be doing all the non-believers a much greater service than adding your own text to the Origin of Species. And secondly, to the counter, I think that on Christmas, atheists and agnostics should return the favor by publishing Bibles with an introduction to natural selection, with many scientists' rationale for believing that human beings ascended from a species different from our own, only not stoop to trying to politicize the debate by being antagonistic and arrogant about it.